This one is going to be very exciting because we're going to be talking about a brand new product that we're going to launch with Reedin.
I think he got out of hand. He got even better than I expected. I was like,
the handling, the water relaunch, it just opens up a completely new field.
I never thought I would get that feeling in that amount of wind.
you ride way more with these guys.
Yeah.
I'm actually, like you said, you can look forward for 7 to 12 knots of wind because it's going to be fun.
All of a sudden it's a
on the
kite
twin
day.
tip.
No way! Look, it's glassy! Look! And I'm going!
Hey everyone, thanks a lot for tuning into this Reedin Talks. This one is going to be very exciting because we're going to be talking about a brand new product that we're going to launch with Reedin, and it's called WHISPERMODEL. And WHISPERMODEL has been developed together with Damien Girardin and Ralph Groschel. It is one of the products that I was never really excited about because it's a light wind kite. I usually like to ride strong winds, and we developed a kite that is the ultimate light wind kite. And with this kite, with this new WHISPERMODEL, it's just like there's no, like you say, there's no more no wind days. I remember us two testing one of the first samples we got in absolutely no wind, and we were able to go.
Yeah, it was funny. We actually ruined the session for so many people who saw us from far away. Remember that?
Yeah.
We showed up, there's no one on the beach. It's super light, and we're like, yeah, let's try anyway, because we had to try it, because Ralph was like, you guys got to try it, and we're looking for wind, no wind. And then we pump up the kite, we go, and then suddenly a lot of people are showing up to the beach, starting to kite, and everybody ends up downwind, and we keep on going. And you were doing like board offs and stuff.
It was mind blowing. So WHISPERMODEL is the third kite in our Reedin kite range. Why did we add another? What was the main reason why we wanted to add another kite to the range?
To me, it was very specific. As you know, we started with like light wind wings. Like I say, I spent a lot of time in San Diego, light wind, moving away from Maui, where you always ride a 6 and a 7. I probably not noticed that the real world and real people, and we don't all live in Cape Town and ride in Barcarès.
Yeah.
But a lot of us, we just kite when it's windy, and sometimes not windy, we bombed. And in San Diego, it's windy every day, but gusting to 12 knots when it's a good day, when it's firing.
Yeah.
And so the idea was like, and there's always people, they want to be in the water. And me first, I want to be in the water. I didn't want to stop kiting because I'm in San Diego. And so knowing that with what Brainchild could do, making the lightest kite ever, working with Ralph, knowing that we could most likely design a fast turning kite, it was like, that's kind of a given that we should have a kite for these people, because I'm gonna love it myself. You know, that was very selfish at first too. I wanted to be able to kite there,
Kite more.
you know, kite more for sure.
Yeah.
And so that was like the main idea. But then I think he got out of hand. He got even better than I expected. You know, like I said, the first time trying with Ralph, I was like, no way. We can kite in this wind. I can stay upwind. I can be on a 20. Wow, sign me up.
This is crazy. And the thing I like the most is with most of the bigger kites I always tried is that it felt like a big truck, trying to hold back the big truck. And this new WHISPERMODEL that you guys have developed is flying much further into the wind window. It feels way more like riding a smaller kite. How is that even possible?
Well, I think two main components. Like the first one is, in general, it is super efficient.
Yeah.
Like the kite is super efficient in terms of the aerodynamical drag it creates. This is one thing. I mean, we can talk about it a little bit later. But the second one is that it's turning faster than any other kite on the market.
It's crazy.
And that is basically, and it is crazy. Like this combination of the low V, the pretty big tip area, the arc, and all the tweaks we have done with the Brainchild technology is the super light. It's ultra light.
How light is it?
Very light, but you basically get me on the wrong foot now in terms of numbers.
Okay, we'll put the numbers. We'll put the numbers in.
The 15 is like 2.85 kilos.
Something like this, yeah.
And average 15 is well into the 4 kilos.
Okay, we'll put some numbers on the bottom so you guys can have the exact numbers of the weight. But I think weight is one of the most important things in a kite, right? Because I'm not a designer, but it's pretty easy. So if something is lighter, it just flies better.
Yeah, well, it's quite simple, you know, like if you have here the glass of water, when it's empty, it's way easier to move it because you have to initialize less of the weight. And this is pretty much what it is, you know, like, and the kite is flying through the air. So to change the direction of the kite, the weight adds up basically because you have accelerated mass. And the lower the number of accelerated mass you have to turn, the quicker it becomes. Yeah, that's the reason why on sport cars, the wheels, for example, are from magnesium, which is super light, because the rotating masses...
Yeah, my car has that too.
Yeah,
show me red magnesium car wheels.
I wish my ones would have this. I cannot afford it, but the Whisper is, I think, so impressive, as you said, because you would never expect the kite to turn that fast, ever.
And
like the 17.
I completely agree.
I mean, remember we had discussions like in the past, our bigger kites, we give little extension with it because you make your flying window that much bigger, so it was easier to get going. And we had discussion, and we're like, well, let's try. But I was assuming we would put extensions, and we try. We're like, actually, we're good. We don't need. And that 17 turns fast enough that you don't need extra lines to have enough room to do all the things you need to do. So that's very impressive.
I remember we're standing on the beach, and I had the kite at 12 o'clock, and it felt so stable. It must have been like 4 to 5 knots, and I could literally just fast-paced walk downwind, and the kite would just stay there up in the air, and it would just go. It would not fall out of the sky. And I've flown a lot of kites in my life, and even if you put it on the side of the wind window in light wind, the kite would basically eventually sink, right? And you would have to run upwind to catch the kite again. And with that new Whisper model, it just stays there. And I could only imagine, like, for riding that's great, but also for people that teach.
And it's starting, you know, you can reverse launch the kite, which is extremely important for teaching, relaunch, like for teaching. I mean, the really cool thing on the Whisper is that the surface area on the tip is done in a way that when you want to restart it, you rather, if you have, let's say, 8 or 9 knots of wind, you just basically turn the bar or pull a little bit on one side of the steering lines, and the kite will come up automatically. And if it's even lower than this, you can also pull on both back lines.
And
you exactly
backstall launch.
And basically a backstall launch. And this is so impressive. Of course, you do have to have some skills, and no, if you don't have the skills, don't try it at home. Actually, they never should try it at home. They should try it on the water. But I think this is, the handling, the water relaunch, it just opens up a completely new field. Now, having a board, let's say you're taking the 17 square meter out, let's say average rider is 75 kilos. I mean, you're exactly pumped.
Only 75 plus.
Definitely, like I'm definitely not 75 anymore, but like light wind kiting is always the combination of your weight, the size of the board, and of course the kite. But what is really extreme is that the Whisper in these 3 sizes is going upwind like there is no tomorrow, which means it is still able to go far out of the wind window, still creating enough pull, but not drag. It's just a very, very, very thin line in between drag and pull, basically. It's just a couple of angles.
Drag is more that truck feeling.
This is the truck feeling, and it's not a truck feeling. You know, like you still 100%. Have the feeling like, oh, you're going. And this is what I said was the efficiency. It just feels extremely efficient.
Hey, and how is the customer going to choose? Because we have 3 sizes. We have the 13, the 15, and 17. How's the customer going to decide which size fits best for them?
I think, like, first of all, general question is like, where do you normally go riding? And if you have, let's say, like a classical onshore spot, like with a sea breeze, again, we are saying 75 kilo, and you really want to go, you want to have fun, you want to do some old school maneuvers, get yourself a 15. Because that actually makes sure that with the sea breeze is in the range from 9 to 14 knots. That is basically the range. And then you will be perfectly powered to execute all your tricks. That's the 15. The 17 for heavier riders, but then only in combination with a bigger board. That's very important because this is the way it does, or the way it has to be done. And the 13 is for me kind of like a machine more, like this is something which is very, very fast, very quick. It of course requires a little bit more of wind, but if you are like full on into old school, really also vertical old school maneuvers, a lot of rotations, and you have a little bit more of wind, 15 knots onwards, then it's the 13. So it's kind of your personal preference and the way you actually think you will use it.
I would also add like a 65, 60 kilo person. That 13 is going to take him in that
100%, yeah.
that breeze that he's talking
yeah.
about. So really, there's a weight thing. I feel like it's your light wind kite for. I mean, I've been going out. We've been going at like 7 knots of wind.
Yeah.
It sounds unbelievable, but that's what we've done. And I never needed the 17 yet with my weight. I'm 80 kilos, but some 90 plus kilo person would go on the 17, and some less than 70 kilo person probably go on the 13. That would be enough. And the gain on like being on the 13 versus 17 for the lighter person is because he loads it less. He's going to be able to turn it faster than he could on the 17.
Yes.
So that's the advantage of like, really the weight is what's going to define what you're going to be riding.
Yeah, and I see what I've tried myself and Parker especially, he's training all the new high performance tricks with all the board offs and all the rotations, but normally you need a lot of wind to practice all these moves. You need like 25 knots plus. Unfortunately, there's not always 25 knots plus everywhere you go in the world. But what I've Parker seen do is he has been riding, for example, the 15 in 10 to 15 knots, and he's practicing all his rotations and all his board flips and everything. So that gives him more time on the water, more training hours, and it's crazy to see him jump. And I experienced the same. You don't jump like that you would normally do on a light wind kite. You edge, like you said, the kite will shoot forward, and once you go up, the kite, like, you actually jump straight up, and it floats, and it feels like that small kite feel. And that's, in my opinion, the best thing about WHISPERMODEL, and that's for sure.
I think it's a great experience, especially when you're on the lake and you have thermal conditions.
Yeah.
You can jump against the wind. This is what actually happens. Yeah, because this is again, it's so efficient. You could use it as a paraglider. Don't do that at home. Yeah, but it is kind of like,
feel like that.
It does feel like that, like it really, like, once you're in the air, it always starts to pitch against the wind, like forward. And this is a kind of a new feeling. Maybe you have to adapt to your riding style a little bit to it, because it is a different projection when you jump. But it gives you a lot of confidence, feeling, fun, jumping transitions into the wind. It's amazing because it's such a cool feeling that you're getting lifted up, have the feeling you fly against the wind, and then you just like turn the kite around your head, really nice, put the kite directly in front of you, because it's light wind, you can just like have a completely different position, continue riding, and it creates much more fun than you would ever expect.
I
from a
100%
kite.
agree. I think the thing that I had to change most of is that when I would see these conditions that are super light, I would be like, oh, it's going to be kind of a boring session. And you take it out, and all of a sudden, like you say, because the kite flies so much forward, you get the straight up jumps, all of a sudden it opens up so many more tricks I can do now, and such easier way of riding, and I can practice rotations and board offs, and that feeling is just, I never thought I would get that feeling in that amount of wind. And that's why I think the WHISPERMODEL is such a unique light wind kite.
Yeah. To me, like, one thing is, and we started working on it, is like, I spent a lot of time in Southern California where there's barely any wind ever.
Yeah.
And I'm not good enough to foil. I've been foiling for so many years, it's really hard to do anything on a foil, like attack, a jibe. You gotta have some experience, some skills. I mean, easy for you, Parker, but like for most of us, normal kiters, and I'm not even like more experienced than a lot of kiters, it's hard.
Yeah.
And what I wanted is like, I want to be able to twin tip when people are thinking about foiling. And that changes everything. I'm out now, there's people foiling that can barely foil because it's that light, and I'm on a twin tip, jumping around, going upwind, just not as good as them.
Sure.
But I go upwind plenty enough, and I'm jumping, and again, I'm looping the kite. The very first session with Ralph, like, we're testing kites in Greece together, and the first day was like blasting like 40 knots. We're testing 6 and 8s and stuff. The day after, I remember, was like glassy. All these kiters expected wind. There was no wind. Everybody's sitting on the beach, and I go out on the kite after we trimmed it a little bit, and I'm starting to jump. I'm like, oh, I can do a kite loop now. And I'm doing a kite loop on a 15-meter kite. I've never even thought of it.
No, you don't.
And I'm throwing like a proper kite loop where I like landed with speed and everything. I was like, wow. And I was like, yeah, we got it. Because that's exactly what it is. It's like suddenly I'm working 9 to 5. I got kids. I have 2 hours on Saturday afternoon to go kite. Oh, bummer, there's no wind. But that doesn't happen. Now you ride way more with these kites. I'm actually, like you said, you can look forward for 7 to 12 knots of wind because it's going to be fun.
All of a sudden, it's
on
the
the twin
kite
tip.
day. Exactly you want. If you have a busy lifestyle with kids and that kind of stuff, like we all have, I want to be out there on the water.
And even if you're a pro, no wind,
Yeah.
still train over the others.
Exactly. So, Damien, why you came up with the name, but why Whisper Model?
Well, you know, like I was like, when you kite in such light wind, which you didn't even know before that you could kite in that kind of wind, everything is so silent. You hear everything, and you don't have to scream on the beach, talk to each other. So I was like, oh, we can actually whisper to each other.
And I remember the first time you said we should call it Whisper Model. I was like, that's kind of a strange name. But then when I tried the kite for the first time, I was like,
Makes sense.
it makes complete
sense.
sense.
Yeah.
You can actually just talk normal because the wind is so light. Yeah.
Even kiting, it's so silent because there's barely any wind in your ears. You can talk to your friend downwind of you like you can never do when it's normal wind. So
I love the name. Well done, guys, on the design and working together. I'm lucky enough to try all the first kites at first hand. And now you can try the Whisper Model too. It's our brand new light wind, I would almost say high performance light wind kite that gets you going in almost no wind. It's going to give you the ability to ride, I would say, almost 80% more than you would ride normally. If you want to get your Whisper Model, go to our website, reedin.com. On the website itself, there's also a shop locator where you can find your nearest dealer where you can buy the brand new Whisper Model. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you for the next one. Later.